He has been inclusive. He's looked at equality. He cuts across class and economics. He believes in people and human rights. He's one of the greatest guys I know, and I am so happy that he is our mayor. I bring to you Mayor Edwin Lee.
Good afternoon. Welcome. Shelley, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I have a lot to be happy about for this day because it's the 100th anniversary in celebrating International Women's Day. And to tell you, we actually have quite a bit to celebrate. We've got probably the highest number of women commissioners ever in the history of the city today. Isn't that wonderful? We have clearly a good and growing balance of women on the Board of Supervisors, on commissions, on agency appointments, and department heads as well. So I'm extremely proud to be heading up this very complicated city. One that doesn't let me sleep very much, but certainly one that I've said this in many, many occasions, and I'll say it here. Just literally these 8 weeks, I've fallen in love with this city even deeper than 8 weeks ago because it's such a wonderful place to be. And every community that I visit, every corridor that we get to walk together with each other, it just fascinates me how so many other people who live and work here, but even those that don't, just love the city and they do what they can to make sure it's running well. And so it's very natural that as I am thrust with the responsibility of being mayor, that I look for talent. And I think a lot of the talent is with the women in San Francisco. I'll tell you that very, very clearly. It's been my pleasure, of course, to have been an employee of this wonderful government for some 22 years now. But to take you back, I had the pleasure of serving another mayor some years ago, one that taught me a lot of things. And one of the things that I recall back in the late 1990s, early 2000s, was when I was the Director of Public Works. And there was this report that came out not too recently thereafter, was called the Cedaw Report, and had been a conference at the United Nations, and this report was being taken very seriously by the Commission on the Status of Women. But one of the things that it had not been able to do was penetrate departments of the city, key departments that had been probably male-dominated for many, many years. What do you think DPW fit that description in the early 2000s? It certainly did. And this Cedaw Report was handed to me through the mayor's office. Of course, the mayor then was Willie Brown, and said, "What are you going to do with this?" And of course, the first thing you do is you read it, and you read it with the understanding that there's probably a lot of information there that's going to be very, very hard, and goals and programs that are going to be very, very hard to implement at Department of Public Works, which had historically been a very male-dominated agency. But we made a commitment to the mayor, we made a commitment to the commission that we would study that report and implement every single one of those as it applied to every level of the department. And I was willing to do that because surrounding me were a lot of other powerful women who said it wouldn't be that hard. All you had to do was pay attention to it. And all you had to do was not take no for an answer. And all you had to do was look forward, not backward. And with those very little pieces of advice, we took on that task, and we found mid-level managers. We found that many women that were trying to get even to the blue-collar work, the work on the streets, had to be treated more equally, had to have processes that were more fair. And as they went up the ladder, we found it to be easier and easier because we simply paid attention. And so in a very short time, I was able to report back to our mayor then that this program of implementing the Cedaw principles and making sure that it happened in the very, very blue-collar Department of Public Works was going on in a very, very good pace. And that, in fact, I was able to very quickly identify mid-level managers who were women, identify engineers, accountants, financial people who are all there for many years. They just weren't invited to become part of management in an open way. And those were very easy to find once you concentrated on it. And so I'm here to say to you that a lot of our successes today reflect efforts that made in the past, but I just don't think that they were too difficult to make once you focused on it. And a lot of that also had to do with the enthusiasm that this city has brought to making those goals real. And a lot of that enthusiasm came from the very women's summits that were established. The women's summits in San Francisco, the one that I remember that I didn't even get a ticket to because it was so crowded, was the one that Mayor Brown had introduced to our city when he revived the Women's Summit. That was a wonderful, wonderful time. And I knew there was going to be a lot of things that came out of that summit because it was the hottest ticket in the city. And those of you who were around in those days, you were fighting for those tickets, and I just gave up. I said, okay, just tell me what I have to do. But they were, as we looked at the videotapes of them, as we looked at the press events that followed thereafter, we were blessed with a lot of great insights as to what we need, the encouragement from women of international stature coming from all over the world attending the summit. Well, that makes it easy for me to say to you that the things that I'm doing now and the things that I have done are a lot credited to the predecessors that opened the doors for me, opened the doors for many, many women, and it's very easy to introduce to you then someone who has earned this title very dearly to me and to all of San Francisco's. This year's Man of the Year award goes to Willie Lewis Brown, Jr. Come on up.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very, very much. I am just delighted that you are in a position to be able to present this to me. And I'm going to work and see if I can win it next year. And I'm going to ask you to stick around and present it to me next year in your capacity as mayor of San Francisco. Mayor Lee, you've got to know that the women of San Francisco that you gave an opportunity to in your capacity as head of the Department of Public Works, in your capacity as the chief administrative officer for this city, even till this day, the person that you designated to replace you, a woman, in that capacity. You have elevated women to positions of importance inside of the mayor's office. I saw Naomi Little out there in one of your deputies. Oh, I don't think they call them deputies anymore. I think Agnos caused an abolition of the word deputy. Every mayor has his impression on what happens in this city. But I am delighted, and I must tell you that working with many of you here on the Women's Summit, when we did those over at the Moscone, when I look around and I see Jackie Besser, and I think about Susan Mosk, and I think about all the other women who headed the Mayor's Summit, I hope that, Mayor Lee, as your term unfolds, you will find a way to do what I think distinguish this city in more ways than one. We clearly became the first city to champion what was supposed to be the process being led by the UN. We were the very first city to do that with reference to women. And I must tell you that I don't think there's any other municipality anywhere in this country that ever matched what we did in terms of trying to inspire women to become full participants in the pursuit of justice and equality. And so I am just delighted, Mr. Mayor, for you to present this award. And I say to all of you who've been responsible, Shelley Bell, as the leader, and others, I am delighted. It's going to go on my wall, and I'm going to prove to my daughter Susan and to Sonia that somebody thinks I'm the man of the year.
We have one more quick presentation for him, but before we do, a couple of people mentioned the past women's summits, and there are a lot of the women who led that in the audience, and Jackie Besser is one of them, Carol Ito, but there are others here, and if we could just ask you to stand up, because we want to recognize you for the work you did and the history you created. Thank you.
And we have something else for Mayor Brown. I'm really happy to present him Women's Intercultural Network's Jedi Knight Award today for all those years that he's been working in the Death Star. And he's done, all the things that he has done to support us. And we especially want to give him this award for being the first state legislator in the country to fund family planning for low-income women in the 1970s. I don't remember the exact year, when he was on the National Board of Planned Parenthood. And I don't know if you all know that, but I was there, and we want to give him a weapon today to help us as the fundamentalists try and take those rights away from us. So, Mayor Brown. We have a... May the force be with you and with us.
A Jedi warrior. Now you know what was behind that mask Darth Vader was wearing. Me.
At this time, I want to acknowledge a couple of people outside of our committee members, like Emily Marasse and the Commission on the Status of Women. When you look in the book, you see an incredible group of women